Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Friday. Hey, let's see if I can do this, team. It's Friday. Hashtag FU Friday. Hi, Faith Goodman. Morning, Clodagh. Morning if you're listening on podcast. It's Friday. And what does Friday mean? Certainly is, Natasha. It's Fuck Off Friday. We're back and we mean business. Quiz of the week happening when it should happen on a Friday. Morning. Sorry. Film soundtrack music automatically kicking in by Apple Music there. How are we all? Faith, how are you, sweetheart? Sending you love. All our thoughts have been with you in this. You know, you've been through a lot this year. You've been through a lot. So sending you all our love. Hi, Keely. Hi, Gabrielle. So unique. Margaret O'Brien. Morning, everyone. I'm afraid we're not going to be able to offer you quite so much unbridled emotion today. For those of you who weren't here, check out yesterday's Coffee Morning. My God, it was all kicking off. Abby Reed, thank you for being the first of many to enlighten us and inform us as to what was being said by Wes Streeting as and when it happened in response to Nadia and the 31 women who rather remarkably flashed their boobs in Parliament Square in order to get noticed. And it looks like they did get noticed, which is what you want. Now we need to, that's obviously only the first part of the process. Got to keep the pressure up, etc., in pursuit of Inhertu. So it's all good. It's all good. I think that's, that's what you would call a good week. And as I think Nadia mentioned this, I think also another great week for the power of social media and the power of the mainstream media. But also, I mean, even the mainstream media, the photographers, the snappers, the pieces that have been done about it, all of that being sort of turbocharged, if you like, in this new world of internetness rather than pieces of paper that you go and buy and then you fish your chips out on a Friday night. Hi, Claire. Sending you love, sweetie. Hope you're well. Eugene McGeever. Is anyone watching the Euros final this weekend between Spain versus England? Eugene, is the Pope a bear? Yes, we're going to be watching it. We're at about the only point at which I do get drawn into football. Is that the same for anyone else? I was talking to a friend of one of our girls yesterday. I was like, when I was younger, fresh-blooded, red-blooded, fresh-faced, wet behind the ears, I'd cry if Tottenham lost. I mean, I would cry. I would follow the matches. Obviously, you didn't have them on television as much back then, so you would have to go to the matches. I'd go to White Hart Lane. You would catch the occasional main, high-profile fixture, like a sort of FA Cup final or something. I'd cry. That's how much it mattered. I mean, and that was the case into my mid-20s, I think. And then for me, it pivoted away from club football, sorry to bore you all, into international football. And with international football, Zoe, you missed a corker yesterday, darling. And then with international football, I only really get interested in international football because I'm not a huge nationalist. It's not about Englishness, but I like to get behind the team. And at this point, it's a vibrant young team, diverse, representative of what makes, in many regards, Britain great, or how I see Britain, which is multicultural, diverse, young, vibrant. So yeah, at this point, I'm all in. I'm all in, as they say. I'm not going to use the phrase that they often say, but I'm all in. It never ceases to amaze me how the football commentators manage to strike for brilliant analogies, don't they? The most opportune moments. Do you think football commentators have like pieces of paper alongside them going, at the end of this match, we're going to say, when the cows come home and all the doves are flying, a game of peace is a game of two halves, and peace, and each half is a piece of a half. Do you know what I mean? Something like that. Edward Bevington, I'm glad it makes you happy. Hannah Liebschutz, only time I cried at sport was watching David Weir at the 2012 Paralympics winning his first gold in the athletics. One of the greatest nights in my life. Reese Roberts, love international football in terms of also rooting for other countries' performances. I used to get into that. My thing with international football was I'd always support the underdog. I seem to remember one year massively supporting Cameroon. I can't remember what World Cup that was, but I seem to remember us all going out and we're going nuts for it. So Zoe, you missed a biggie yesterday. What did you miss? You missed the live. You missed the live, not the live announcement, but Wes Streeting announcing progress, or at least engagement with Nadia and, as she calls them, the Fab Four and the Fab 31, and all the fabulous other women and men who could benefit from Inherto. Tori, how are you, sweetie? Message, please. Christian Johnson, it's the only football I follow. I can't watch matches. It's too stressful, especially. But I'm going to use a really lavatorial analogy. Nadia would say, Mark, apple crumble. But I got to a point in my life where, and I'm going to use it because it's the most apt, and I'm sorry, Mum, it's going to make you blush, but it got to a point in my life where watching a game of football was like a really unsatisfactory moment of self-pleasure. It was like, what was the point of that? No one's impressed. I've built no connections. It changes nothing materially. I'm not even going to know if I want to do it again later, the next day, do you know what I mean? And so I found it lost its sheen. Sorry. So yes, but don't get me wrong. So if we win, let's start with this. If we win, it will be a wondrous moment. But maybe that's it. Maybe it's mindfulness. It's a moment, isn't it? Because straight after it, everyone gets drunk, then everyone gets hungover. If everything Keir Starmer's saying is true, then we're going to have a bank holiday if we win. If we don't have a bank holiday, going with my analogy, you have a wank holiday. Do you get me? It's a moment, but then all great things are just moments. Things can't last forever. What do we do with this information? What do we do with this, the greatness of it? And if we don't, all that time spent getting stressed. Here's a thought. And Reese, anyone, jump in on this. I saw a wonderful quote. I forget the film. I played it to my mum the other day. Jake Gyllenhaal talking about how society and civilizations manage to make sure the masses don't challenge or question things or just accept the status quo more and more through entertainment and sport. Let's view sport as an entertainment. Is there not a danger that all this stuff is all about keeping us enslaved? I don't want to get too heavy. Do you know what I mean? But once you've seen past that, could this just be a way of distracting us? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Darwit. Oh, Lord. Just saw the title. I haven't seen the Biden press conference. I was going to catch up with it tomorrow. Worse than the debate for performance. Darwit. I'm about to show you a clip. Excuse me. Victoria Moore. What are we chatting about? Football and wanking. No, football. Russ, we're talking about football. And Zoe's gone to sleep. And I just don't. Anyway, so what am I trying to say? Yes, I'm watching it. Yes, I'll be leaping around. Okay, I think Ross Kemp sums it up perfectly.
Hey, Watkins, you did it. We knew those changes would work.
Fucking hell, Ross.
Gareth Southgate, genius.
What?
Ollie Watkins!
You're scaring me, Ross.
We love you!
He loves you too.
We love you!
Honestly, I really...
We love you! We are in the final!
I used to be like that. I mean, the bald one. I used to be like that. It would matter that much. I mean, I was talking to the kids the other day and they were out when in the semi-finals. I've been in that, when the beer just goes in the... I mean, I did say to a couple of youngsters, I said, I'm sure people don't throw beer around in the way that they used to because it costs so fucking much. Who's going to... Five quid. When it was £1.20, hooray! £5. That sounds like Demolition, directed by Mark Jean Valley. True in the sense, another thing to entice and distract. However, we're all designated to live within a construct. Can you blame... Reese, like style there. We can't pretend we're not part of the construct. What you're saying is we can't pretend we're not a Lego piece in a massive Lego construction that keeps being rebuilt by someone else. I like that. I'm up for that. So I'm going to be watching the football. I'm going to be caning it. I'm thinking of relapsing, and I'm then going to beat myself up. So there you go. That's an answer to that. So who saw Joe Biden's latest, or heard at NATO Joe Biden's latest gaffe? Should we do it? Biden's new blunders, as I've called it. Biden's new blunders. Let's try them in. This is sort of the best bits as selected by the Times.
Hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. We're going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better. We got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Let's just pause for a moment there. Just pause. Let's do a close reading, guys, shall we? Shall we pull down the flip chart? Now, I felt for him here. You know, when think of Lee Peart when he was carrying those cocktails on the piste. And if you over concentrate on the big boy tray, if you've seen our content, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you concentrate on something that's pretty obvious and is at the tip of your tongue, and you know it just like that, but you're really trying not to make a mess. It's a mistake. It's a bad mistake because the guy that you've just called Putin is Zelensky. And I thought Zelensky was good. I thought, he said, I'm better. But then didn't you realize, it didn't make you sort of think, oh my God, do they all talk about each other in this way? Putin's really bad. Oh, I don't want to. Anyway, so it goes on. That was the most agonizing moment. Apparently in the press room, behind, NATO, whatever, people were just agog. I love that word. They were just agog. They were just like, this is toe-curlingly bad. Certain journalists couldn't watch it. Watching Biden makes me feel anxious, Lamia Sofa. It's like watching a stand-up, no comedy. It's really frightening. Okay, here we go.
Concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president.
Okay, let's just unpack that. I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president. Okay, so we've got Putin running Ukraine. We've got Vice President Trump appointed by Biden. This was the reason this is important. Zoe, I feel bad, but I honestly feel it's so. I never cease to be amazed. I've got a kind of self-talking George W. Bush, I don't know, got it about 10 years ago, George W. Bush figure. You press it and one of his ridiculous quotes come out. And they're ridiculous because they were total word salads of nothingness. I'll pull it out one day. And you thought, it can't get worse than this. And then Obama came in and there was a smooth kind of classy serenity, wasn't there, to all of that? You only got quotes from the Obamas like, you go high, they go low, or your flies are low, they go high, or something like that. Anyway, do you know what I mean? They were always silky smooth. I mean, the Obamas, everything they said was a preordained meme, wasn't it? It was memification. So they came in. And then Trump came, and every fucking thing he's ever said is unfortunately, though invariably utterly disagreeable, very funny, just because of his cat's anus. I don't know what he said. I don't think Joe knows what he said. He's very funny, but horrible. And then you're thinking, well, there can't be any more to be had. But now we have Biden, who, bless him, bless his cotton socks. He's an old man who is very stubborn. And I think what we're experiencing right now, writ large, I mean, this is the thing. This is, if you were to write this as a play or as a film, like imagine doing this as Oppenheimer with the heft of Oppenheimer. You couldn't write this because it would be the inherent stupidity and farcical nature of it all would mean that you couldn't maintain the drama. And that's the problem with this. It's really hard to maintain the drama. It's like we are heading towards some kind of non-specific Armageddon. But we've got such sort of ordinary suburban distractions en route that we're kind of giggling and dealing with like it's like I'm in a semi-detached house in the suburbs trying to convince an old auntie that she really, really must stop going down the shops, or she needs to trust that she can't keep driving. It's like we can't, no one can tell him what to do. He's a stubborn old man. And meanwhile, the entire world is like that. Who's going to, can you tell him? No one's telling him. They say he has Parkinson's, but the White House, if they're to be trusted, they've pushed back on this. Let's have a listen.
I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there. Number one. The fact is that the consideration is that I think I'm the most qualified person to run for president. I beat him once, and I will beat him again. I'm ready to deal with him now and 3 years from now. Look, like I said,
It's not good. This is NATO. This is in front of the world. I'm pretty certain Putin, or was that Zelensky, is sat somewhere in Russia going, maybe we don't need to use 5,000 nuclear warheads. Maybe we just use 2. I mean, or maybe they're thinking we don't use any. This guy's he's just falling apart. I mean, we've talked about it many times. There's the human contingent where you think, oh my God, this is a poor old man standing in front of the world. What's it called in America? Is it elder abuse, where you kind of leave people? I've long said I think it's really sexist, the idea that it's just his wife who's responsible. But even Nadia said this morning, she said, I'm sorry. She needs to lock him in the toilet and throw away the key. And I'm inclined to agree with her. She has to say something. The kids have to say something. I mean, they need more than George Clooney saying, you know, what did George Clooney say? This isn't the Biden I remember. No, this is an old, doddery man.
Dealing with Xi right now and direct contact with him. I have no good reason to talk to Putin right now. There's not much that he is prepared to do in terms of accommodating any change in his behavior. But there isn't any world leader I'm not prepared to deal with. But I understand the generic point is Putin ready to talk? I'm not ready to talk to Putin unless Putin's ready to change his behavior. Last time I talked to Putin was trying to get him to work on an arms control agreement related to nuclear weapons.
There's a moment where he talks about him having a bad left foot, and no disrespect to old people here, but you know, you get to a point in age where it's very hard to get some, and I understand why, you know, because your world is getting smaller and one's concerns are getting smaller. But it's like it's getting to the point where he's only going to talk about his kind of physical. He talks about his leg. He talks about his foot. He talks about. Someone's just said, Reese, did someone just say that you know, he's behind Trump by 7 points? If Kamala Harris was to run, she'd be 2 points ahead. I mean, I think we're going to see him pulled off stage. I think someone's literally going to put on one of those old-fashioned 70s kind of walking sticks with a hook on the end and just jab him off. No, I mean, I think people are starting to say to him things like, but what about your legacy? What about your legacy? But he's so stubborn. And at this point, albeit he's old, and albeit he's the president there, he can cope with this. You want to slap him, don't you? You want to go, for God's sake, Joe, think of other people. This isn't all about you.
The space. That didn't go very far.
Oh,
I've taken 3 significant and intense neurological exams by a neurologist. In each case, as recent as February. And they say I'm in good shape, okay? Although I do have...
Okay, I'm in good shape. Like, don't fuck with me, dude.
Problem with my left foot because it's not as sensitive because I broke my foot and didn't wear the boot.
Okay, so we have a leader of the free world at NATO explaining how he damaged his right foot and it's got slightly worse and he hasn't got feeling in it because he didn't use the boot. Maybe that, if you see my Instagram, maybe that was the boot that was in our drive. If you go to my Instagram, there's a post of me with a someone's lost a sort of foot boot for injuries. It's his, but he's standing at NATO. I know he's been asked a question, but you just, if you're cognizant and you're sharp, you just knock it into the long grass, don't you? You just knock it away. You don't then go into, oh well, actually my right foot has got a bit of a.
But I'm good. I've got to finish this job. I've got to finish this job because there's so much at stake.
You're damn
If you
right.
look at my schedule since I made that stupid mistake in the campaign in the debate, I mean, my schedule has been full bore.
You earlier explained confidence in your vice president.
Yes.
If your team came back and showed you data that she would fare better against former President Donald Trump, would you reconsider your decision to stay in the race?
No, unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win. Me. No one's saying that.
Oh, hang on a minute. It suddenly went really sinister right at the end there. Did you get it? Let's just hear that moment one more time. Really sinister. Listen to this.
Me. No one's saying that. No poll says that.
No one's saying that. I mean, no one's saying that. So he's blaming his schedule. He's blaming jet lag. He's blaming the fact that he's blaming his own team. I mean, he's an alien necessarily. You know what? I'm beginning to wonder, has he been compromised by some extraterrestrial force? And have those in his inner circle, are they also the aliens? If this is like Mars attacks, he's going to peel his head open, and inside there's going to be a green sausage. Don't you think? No one's saying that. Oh my God. It's scary. And the weirdest thing that he also said, which isn't included in that compilation, was he said this is a badge of honor. He said, I mean, at re-polls and polling, have you seen how popular I am in Israel? And you think, hang on a minute, I don't know if you want to be shouting that proudly that you're popular in a country, recognizing not every single Israeli signs up to this, but in a country that at the moment is engaging in, according to the International Court of Justice, a likely and pretty much from most of our kind of understanding of the term genocide. Do you really want to be popular there? I don't think that's a badge of honor. Stuart G, I love that. When mash gets smashed. I thought aliens were going to land like in, I don't know, those old films, you know, where you get sort of a flying saucer. It lands and then a slope comes down and it comes down. The president walks up and goes, hi, and then they pull out a blaster and they blow him up. They're already here. They're already here. But no one said, let's just hear it one more time.
Me. No one's saying that.
No one's saying that. No one's saying that. He's been shouting that since 1970. Even more frightening. Even Michael Douglas, who's turning 80 in September, a long-time Democratic supporter, says Rees has a deep concern if he's elected, how he would be. Yeah, and that's an important question. Yeah, so that question that he was answering about talking to Putin, getting on the blower to him, I don't need to talk to him, he's being a naughty boy, I only talk to him if he's a good boy, was in response to a question where the question was really saying, how are you going to be able to, what are you going to be like in 2 years' time? When you're dealing with all these leaders of the world, President Xi, Putin, Zelensky, whichever one they are, how are you going to be able to deal with them in 2 years' time? But he took that to mean whether him and Putin will be on talking terms in 2 years' time. He's literally so not in the zone of thinking that he's not. How self-obsessed must you be? Now, of course, self-obsession all your life, combined with a sprinkling of, I hate to use the term, but Zionism, combined with a sprinkling of, untouchability, and having been a president for 4 years, I don't think we can get to him. No one's saying that. Oh, My God, it's all so scary. So anyway, those are Joe Biden's blunders. So let's just watch for the next week. I mean, CNN are throwing adverts every 6 seconds because it's just like flipping heck. This is the biggest story is Joe Biden. I mean, but how are they going to get rid of him? How is he going to go with that? What's he going to do? What if Joe Biden ends up being the one that kind of throws all the secrets of the? I mean, he's so unpredictable. I mean, you don't know what could come out of his mouth. Whew. Anyway, that's Biden. Just quick, well, not quickly, but the awfulness. Did you presumably you all saw and heard about the awfulness of the triple Crossbow murder? That was just awful. The Crossbow suspect obviously has been found. He's still recovering from Kyle Clifford is the perpetrator, still recovering from injuries in hospital, so still hasn't been questioned, according to The Guardian. But this story was just hideous. I heard this whilst driving in the car, and as it was breaking, and there was a manhunt underway. It's a BBC Radio Sports presenter, I believe. His wife and 2 daughters killed, and it was just like, oh my God, it's just. And it's weird, isn't it? It's this whole kind of. It's like, again, we were watching the press preview last night, and it's like, how easy is it to buy a crossbow? Yeah, of course. All these things need to be questioned. There probably do need to be more kind of, But it's not just the crossbow, is it? It's the mentality of the person. It's the person who's the real. That's not. It sounds like an argument not to ban guns. I disagree. It makes it easier, but it's not like I don't think you don't often hear of crossbow injuries, but male violence. Exactly the topic. The broader topic tomorrow, Salter. Thank you very much for kind of getting there. Is male violence? This is deeply toxic masculinity. I mean, and also the guy Kyle Clifford. His brother is already serving time for a murder in which I believe it was merely a sort of a prank on the road, a car and a moped. I think he hit a moped or a moped hit his car and he bludgeoned and killed someone. It makes you obviously question what kind of fucking upbringing did these guys grow up in, that their capacity for violence is so readily at the tips of their fingers. Victoria Moore, 2/3 of women killed are killed by a current or ex-partner. I mean, it's so important. It's the same statistic around rape. Most rapes are by people that you know. And of course, the backstory to this story is clearly that, tragically, one of the daughters that was killed was involved in a, however brief or not, relationship with this guy. But what kind of pump action crossbow, what kind of twisted individual turns to that kind of. I mean, at first I thought, was this a hit? Is it a stalker? I mean, it's a fine line between what a stalker is. If you've dated them, a lot of stalkers are in fact people, again, that are known to the person. So it was just, this guy has had his family wiped out. Russ Souch, thank you. Exactly how I felt. I just can't get my head around this. I do have a fear that a sniper will shoot me whilst walking along the street, minding my own business. Worrying. It is worrying. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember in Washington, there was the sniper who was taking people out at a gas station. Do you remember that? They click in half, and the string travels quick. Oh yeah, crossbows. I mean, and again, it's just like. I mean, I presume, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure social media, Twitter, X, all that kind of stuff is speculating like mad. You can more obviously turn a gun on yourself, but I wondered whether he actually turned the crossbow on himself. He was an ex-soldier. He was, by all accounts, according to people who knew him, who were served with him, he was darkly and worryingly obsessed with violent videos and films. And of course, you're right. It's like zombie knives, crossbows. Yeah, make all these things as difficult to kind of access as possible. But it does, as you rightly say, it doesn't remove this kind of, deeply baked in fury and anger and violence that just threads through a certain sort of, I'd like to say, type of man. I mean, thankfully, this is rare. The press seizes upon it. This is rare. But it was just hideous. Just the implications for the family, for the wife, for the daughters, for the, they did manage to make phone calls whilst it was happening as well. They were, at the scene, they were severely injured. So, it was just Awful. Ellery Jones, they will probably say he had PTSD. And interestingly, that speaks to the need, doesn't it? So the media can cause PTSD. And yeah, I mean, again, what are the defenses? You know, I sometimes get to a point where you sort of begin to query, don't you, the morals, if you like, of lawyers and what have you. I mean, obviously, everyone has to get a fair trial, but when you have something like this, it's very hard, isn't it, with something like this, when you can, you know, all the evidence is there, pretty much. You know, the guy is holding the weapon, and it's very hard to not just feel, if it was your family, just fucking hell, what can we do with them? Which is kind of leading me very much to the biggest story today in terms of politics and society, which is the prison problem. I really want to know what your thoughts are before we get to the Friday quiz. I really want to know what your thoughts are on the prison story. But just a few more comments from you guys. Victoria Moore, a woman killed every 3 days, Crossbow rate, and 3 women in one family, but other than that, not rare at all. Absolutely. It also becomes more apparent how mental health facilities have less access and power than they used to. People with deep mental issues endanger people and themselves in society. Paradise Shades, men who can't deal with anger issues. Yeah, fucking hell. I mean, you know, yeah. Liar for hire. They don't call lawyers liar for hire for nothing. The rise of incel behavior is terrifying. Yeah, just the idea that it's even it's like, you know, there'd be the tragedy of, say, with an individual like this, that he's clearly so deeply disturbed that he hurts himself. That's tragic enough, that someone is so deeply disturbed, failed by mental health, failed by the whole system, that they failed by, you know, whatever their experience was in the army, failed, that they hurt themselves. But when it hurts other people, you think, I mean, I always remember someone saying, you know, the line that, you know, yeah, they had an awful childhood, or you look at their backstory. Me and Nadia had this conversation a lot. Of course, one needs to understand. But the quick comeback on that is, you know, so many people who've had equivalently awful upbringings don't turn to the same solutions or violence. Do you get me? Anyway, so the big news today is, and yes, I just a bit bear in mind, I have seen this awful story. It's a kind of evolving story. Awful story at the Bristol Clifton, the suspension bridge in Clifton. Body parts found in 2 suitcases. Just hideous. This story breaking last night. You just think, obviously they're trying to get to the bottom of who was in the suitcases. They have an image of the guy who was seen pulling the suitcases out of the cars, and even right down to LBC reporting that a passerby, a witness, heard a passerby actually say to the guy who was pulling the bags out of the back of a taxi with the bodies in, saying, "What's in them? These are heavy. Are there dead bodies in them?" I mean, this is just, it's very, very dark. They've just opened the bridge, I believe. Investigations are ongoing. There are images online of the guy that they are looking for. But yeah, body parts found in 2 suitcases at the Clifton suspension bridge in Bristol. Just awful. So Keir Starmer states that the state of prisons is worse than I ever imagined. And one of the suggestions here is, I think there's approximately space for 500 or 700 more inmates in prisons in the UK. So one of the things that they're thinking of doing is releasing, we're not talking about, although the Telegraph, front page of the Telegraph today is saying they're going to release violent prisoners or violent inmates. I think they're not. That's certainly the suggestion. They're going to be allowing people who can come up for parole or early release after serving 50% of their time. They're going to see if they can reduce that slightly to once they've done 40% of their time. Things like cannabis users, TV license absconders, that sort of stuff. The non-violent criminals, and weirdly, I think it comes as no surprise to anyone because we hear all the time that prisons are overcrowded. That's one story. I think the part of this story that really stood out to me was the suggestion by the police, where they say that unless something, the Ministry of Justice has said that unless immediate action is taken regarding prison spaces, this crisis could unfold into lawlessness, which I think is a really kind of frightening thought. So this is less about, so this is the idea that there may be a connecting thought between lack of space in prisons, a lack of ability to process people who are being passed through the courts to go to prison for violence, for robbery, for sexual abuse, for all these kind of things, murder, rape. But because the prisons are so full and because the process is getting so clogged, that there will become an awareness amongst many people engaged in kind of criminal activity on the streets that the system couldn't cope with dealing with them anyway, and that this might encourage a sort of a community sense awareness that it's all right to loot, to commit crime, to steal, to mug, to all this kind of stuff. And I can see that. I can see the logic in that. So you need to find a little bit of kind of room. You need to create a little bit of room so that you can start to feed people through a bit more. But once again, a little bit like, the problem we were just talking about. At some point, one has to turn one's attention to the cause of the problem, or where this problem's coming from. I mean, obviously, London is like every major city. There are parts of London where, it's just known to Londoners. You just won't go there on your own. Most parts of London you won't go through on your own as a young woman. It's just a fact. It's just accepted. And so, but of course, the right-wing press are kind of going, we're going to let lots of people out. There's going to be a sudden surge of criminality from all the people they're letting out. But if we don't pull people out to create more room to put people in, there's going to be a surge of criminality anyway. So what would you say is the solution? Creatorholic, got to have a zero tolerance of all crime to stop crime escalating. Yeah, but zero tolerance, I agree, but and that's what worked certainly in parts of New York years ago. Zero tolerance is only really achievable, isn't it, when you've got some suspension and give within the system to be able to process people. You've got to have a real, if you're threatening to do this, you've got to be able to do it, don't you? Prison reform includes intervention outside prison walls, Catherine Cronin, youth clubs, ex-prisoner hiring, more efficient courts. It's not sexy headline stuff, but necessary. Well, that's interesting. And yes, I think one of the things that they are going to try and push is that more people who come out of prison for certainly lesser offences, but even, I suppose, even more serious offences, are given as much of a chance, if not a bigger chance, to rehabilitate by being given jobs and things like that. Yet there has to be a solution. There has to be a solution, but the solution, it isn't sexy, it is difficult, and it's one of those topics that, however you approach it, it's going to be easy for the press to. So again, talking about the Labour Party, I think this is one of those topics that, they've thrown it into the middle of. They can now because they've got a majority and everything. It's obviously a topic that needs to be discussed, and I think it's important that it is discussed. This is what I don't think is going to happen, though the right-wing papers would have you think this, is that loads and loads of criminals are going to all just be released on the street and they're all going to go mad. What they're actually saying is unless we do this, criminality is going to increase more and more and more, and more threatening criminality is going to increase more and more. One of the problems we've got, as a Londoner, I'm sure other people in London here would agree with this, there are certain parts of London that are not only sort of unvisitable or kind of, are no-go areas, but are increasingly so as time goes by. No amount of solving it this way is going to change certain parts of London, and I know Manchester and Bristol likewise. Catherine Cronin, Keir's appointment is a promising one, I think. Yeah, we are just hoping by the end of this month, just pivoting back towards the Gaza issue and our issue. The reason we voted Green was an entirely moral discomfort with the Labour Party's attitude and approach to the Gazan problem. A lot of the language coming out of Keir at the moment is about two-state solutions, recognising Palestine. This is all positive and encouraging. But and also they have talked about the fact that they're going to stop this attempt to, stymie or what's the word? Sort of delay the ability to kind of issue arrest warrants potentially for Netanyahu. I think, it's just hope that they follow through on that. They're saying it's all good. I think what we're hearing is good, but we have to see action too. So, and obviously part of that will have been actually, and I think this is again where democracy has kind of worked a little bit, part of that will be due to the size of the opposition to Labour, even within their victory, from the pro-Gazan kind of electorate, if you like. And so finally, just before we do the quiz, what do we think? Oh, just quickly on that point on the election, interesting piece in The Guardian today, just reporting that, we're talking about statistics, the election, what have you. It's official that it was the lowest turnout in a UK general election since universal suffrage, a new report shows. A new think tank finds that only 52% of the British adult population cast their ballots on the 4th of July. The Institute for Public Policy Research found that it's the lowest since the vote was extended to all adults in 1928. That's not a nice detail for Keir Starmer. And I think one of the challenges as we push into this Labour government is there's going to be an awareness of that. They don't need to worry about it for the first 2 or 3 years. But as they move through their time, if they want to prolong their kind of stay in power, they're going to have to think about that, because that's the lowest turnout, and their majority, as we've said many times, is quite thin. It's not good, Keely Windle. It's not good. I mean, it just speaks to a total disenchantment with the electoral process. I mean, that's no different to the paper thin majority that voted for Brexit, and we know how split the country was on that. So yeah, quite something. Okay, so. Let's do. Oh, and just finally, Keir Starmer saying there should be a bank holiday if we win the football. Do you agree? Well, I think everyone would like that, wouldn't they? But bank holiday, I think, beer is going to go. I mean, not wishing to take the shine off a potentially really good time. I really hope we win, because there's nothing, hell hath no fury, and statistics prove this, around men, alcohol, and unhappiness around football. So. There's a kind of societal kind of, I hope it goes well, so anyway. But yes, we are rooting for England. We will be watching here. I hope Ross Kemp's watching. I'm hoping he'll FaceTime me actually at some point in the match, and we can maybe connect over our excitement. So let's pull up the quiz of the week, shall we? And I think for quiz of the week, we have to do a little bit of this. Nice. Jazz. Okay. Here you go. If you are listening on podcast, you can partake in this too. This is a little quiz, 7 questions about the news of the week. If for those regulars who like this, stay and do this. If not, enjoy your Friday. Vlog-tastic stuff will be landing later. And just on that, this weekend, it's a slight strange twist reversal just due to Dina availability. So we're going to have the No Name Sunday show live tomorrow. So No Name Saturday show for members in the family guest area. And we are going to be doing the Curly Cooks live on Sunday. And obviously that will be earlier in the day in order to protect football time. Okay, so here we go. Question 1. It's a record 11 women were appointed to cabinet positions following Labour's win in the general election, including Rachel Reeves as female vice-chancellor. Which of these other posts is not held by a woman? Is it A, the Business and Trade Secretary, B, the Welsh Secretary, or C, the Transport Secretary? Which of those isn't held by a woman? Haven't got a clue. Julie, the singing nutcase, incredibly kind. Someone somewhere will have a weirdly donated family guest membership. You'll be able to not only watch the Sunday show, for anyone who becomes a family guest, however you become one, go to the playlist, Sunday show, and you will be, or No Name Sunday show, I think it is, and you'll be able to watch all the historic shows there. The answer is A, Business and Trade Secretary. Question 2. Tennis fans at Wimbledon said farewell to former champion Andy Murray, who made his final appearance before he retires later this year. Who did the Scotsman beat for his second title in 2016? This is one for you, Reese. Was it A, Marin Cilic, B, Novak Djokovic, or C, Milos Raonic? God almighty. I'm so not. I used to love tennis. Again, I loved sport when I was younger. I don't know, as I've grown up, I don't know. It's weird. I go back to the analogy I used earlier. I just find it an empty, lonely experience. I think not drinking is a problem. I think drinking helps with sport. For me, it did anyway. It's C, Milos Raonic. Sorry, doesn't mean anything to me. C. 2. No, that's one sporty one. Question 3. The Smithsonian Institute's National Portrait Gallery in Washington purchased what's believed to be the earliest photo of a US First Lady. Which president's wife is the subject of the photograph? Is it A, Louisa Adams, wife of John Quincy Adams, B, Dolly Madison, wife of James Madison, or C, Sarah Childress Polk, wife of James Polk? This is the earliest photo of a United States First Lady, wife of the president. Who is it of? A, Louisa Adams, B, Dolly Madison, or C, Sarah Childress Polk. Madison, you say. Oh, who said Madison? Edward, Bevington, Dawny Harvey, don't worry. It's Friday. Your brain doesn't need to work properly yet. Question 4. Sport. Sorry, guys. Lamine Yamal became the youngest goal scorer in Euro Championship history as Spain beat France to reach the final. Who was the previous youngest scorer at the Euros? Was it Kozlowski, A, B, Wayne Rooney, or C, Johan von Lanthen? Who was the previous youngest scorer at the Euros? Guess, guys. I guessed with Kozlowski, but I was wrong. There's a clue. Kozlowski, A, Rooney, B, or Johan von Lanthen, C. None of you are saying it. Elaine Grant did. It's C. Question 5. The daughter of an African president said she hoped coming out as a lesbian could help change the law banning same-sex relations in her country. This is important. Of which nation is her father the leader? A, Burundi, B, Cameroon, or C, the Central African Republic? Clue in this is, I talked at some point somewhere this week about supporting this country's team years ago. The daughter of an African president said she hoped coming out as a lesbian would help change the law in her country, but of which nation is her father the leader? A, Burundi, B, Cameroon, or C, Central African Republic? Lots of you saying, oh, Donny Harvey's gone in with Burundi. Hannah Liebschutz, B. Sean Thomas, B. It is Cameroon. Good on her. Question 6. Returning to the UK's election, Sir Keir Starmer praised the new parliament as the most diverse in terms of race and gender this country has ever seen. It also boasts a wide range of ages. How many years are there between the youngest and oldest MPs in the British Parliament? Is it A, 47 years, B, 58 years, or C, 64 years? What's the gap between the youngest politician in the British Parliament and the oldest? Is it A, 47 years, B, 58 years, or C, 64 years? Did you know? I didn't realise this. I was looking into. Oh God, I've forgotten his name. What's the name of the Scottish Liberal Democrat politician? Tragically died, ginger hair. Oh, what was his name? Oh my God, completely forgotten his name. He was at the time when he was elected the youngest politician, wasn't he? Anyone remember his name? I was rereading the story of his tragic death due to alcoholism. Do you remember he appeared on Question Time and there was all those queries about it? The answer is B, 58 years. Final question, question 7. US hip-hop group Cypress Hill made a joke from an old episode of The Simpsons come true when they teamed up with the London Symphony Orchestra for a concert at the Royal Albert Hall. Which of their albums did they play in full? Was it A, Back in Black, B, Charles Kennedy? Thank you, Elaine Grant. That was the name of the Lib Dem. Tragic story. He was so young, 50, I think he was 54, 55. Was it A, Back in Black, US hip-hop group Cypress Hill's album that they played in full with the London Symphony Orchestra? Which one was it? Was it A, Back in Black, B, Black Sunday, or C, Temples of Boom? Don't even know. I don't even know who. Well, I have heard of Cypress Hill, I suppose, but yeah. Coffee Power, Edward Bevington. The answer is B, Black Sunday. I got 2. That was awful. That was horrible. That was a really awkward and horrible quiz of the week. I apologize to Faith and all fans of it. It was just unpleasant in every single regard. There we go. Anyway, guys, as I say, stay tuned. It's a flip around of the Sunday and the Curlies. Curlies on Sunday, Sunday on Saturday. And other content will be landing forthwith. Have a lovely Friday and see you later, alligator.